I think it's about time I watch an anime that's not Bleach or JJK.
I believe I skipped Diamond Is Unbreakable. Should I watch it though?
Don't disappoint. What the hell was this part? You guys actually like this? Hot take, but part 5 was better than this.
Let's not pretend this isn't what it is. This video is on Jojo's bizarre adventure Diamond Is Unbreakable, the fourth part of the manga/anime series created by the mangaka Hirohiko Araki. I didn't like this part of Jojo's, and what makes this worse is you guys gaslit me into thinking this part was actually good. Okay. If you guys actually like part 4, I can't control that. However, I can express my own thoughts. With that said, here's why I don't like Diamond Is Unbreakable. Before we begin, I'm gonna spoil the following animes, as I need to make a point. If spoilers bother you, click off, catch yourself up, then come back. Not like it's necessary, cause unlike spoiled food, spoiled anime is unlikely to kill you. But if you don't care about spoilers, let's begin. Number 1, the characters are useless. Diamond Is Unbreakable follows 3 high schoolers, a mangaka, and a marine biologist in the small town of Morio, based around Araki's hometown of Sendai, as they play an intense cat and mouse chase with the serial killer who kills young women with his explosion powers just so he can indulge in his fetish role-playing of, I don't know, pretending to have a girlfriend, I guess.
What have we here? It seems in all the excitement you managed to tear the wrapper and make a mess. Such a naughty girl.
But that's only if the story remembers it has a plot. And trust me, the pacing will be covered, cause goddamn is it a crock of shit. But one of my main issues for getting through this part is the characters are useless. Deadass, Sakura has accomplished more in Naruto than half of the cast in Diamond Is Unbreakable. Even limiting to the main cast, the only one useful is Jotaro Kujo, and most of his work is in the goddamn background.
What a giant pain in my ass.
Koichi Hirose only somewhat involves himself, and even then he accomplishes jack shit. Okuyasu Nijimura also doesn't do much. Strange. But the most insulting is Rohan. I'm not even going to say his last name. Kishibe? This man had every reason to pursue the killer and chose to waste his time playing rock, paper, scissors with an actual child and playing a gambling game where he got cheated by a high schooler. This man needs his priorities straight. But the most insulting thing, the real MVP of this entire series is Kawajiri. Yes, this elementary student at best managed to do more by following his dad wherever he goes than an adult who gets pressed by actual kids, and even more than high schoolers who do absolutely nothing. Quite frankly, I'm surprised they even managed to catch the killer at the end, because with their ideas of priorities and their shared brain cells, they can't catch anyone for shit. Also, the character developments are... okay, to be honest, Jojo's isn't known for deep character developments. But when they have character development, they at least have some form of follow-up. But in Diamond Is Unbreakable, Koichi and Rohan have at least some form of development, but they're ultimately pointless. Rohan, having met the ghost of the girl whose family took him in and was killed by the killer, gave him the motivation he needed to find him. But as I stated, this guy wastes his time being pressed by kids. First in rock, paper, scissors, and the second in gambling. Okay, it's not really development per se, but still, What was the point of the motivation if he's not gonna do shit with it? And Koichi's development was only for him to awaken his stand and nothing more. As I stated, he doesn't even do much in the story, so this development was pointless. Besides, I do genuinely think there was a better point in the story for him to develop, but it will be saved when I discuss the pacing and plot of Diamond Is Unbreakable. Still, could be worse. They could have a pointless conflict that does nothing more than make me want to punch the screen.
なぜ僕を直した？
What?
余計な真似を。貴様に助けられるくらいなら死んだ方がマシだ。だいたい逃げろと言ったのにみすみす敵の罠に踏み込んでくるとはこの大バカが。
Are you kidding me? Number 2, Josuke Higashkita.
ナイスバディのお姉ちゃん捕まえるハンティングっすか？俺結構純愛タイプだからな。
I purposefully left this guy out, cause A, that's exactly how they treat him in the show, and B, he deserves this entire segment. Hey, at least I'm giving him the protagonist treatment. Obviously in stories there's gonna be characters, and every story like this has a character who's always the main focus. These are called protagonists. It shouldn't be alarming or groundbreaking that stories should have a character to revolve around. After all, in all of those stories, we're seeing it through the perspective of the protagonist, and they're typically the ones who get the most screen times and have the most significant roles in the story. So their characterization is by far more important than the other characters, and it's that characterization and the way they're treated in the story that determines whether they'll be beloved to this day or they'll be hated till the day we go extinct. With that said, Josuke Higashkita. One of my personal pet peeves when it comes to these types of stories, the protagonist getting overshadowed by the other characters. Am I saying to completely forget about the other characters? No, they're important for different reasons. But this is arguably worse than having a protagonist overshadow everyone else, because at least they're, you know, being the protagonist. Josuke doesn't feel like the protagonist in his own part. That's because, I'll get to it later, this season either likes to shit on Josuke or forget he exists. Also no, it's not like the Yuji Itadori situation, where he's not terribly written but is overshadowed by better written characters and fan favorites. Josuke's situation is that the story prioritizing on expanding its cast while throwing Josuke to the sidelines. Again, I hate when series do this to the main character, because at that point you might as well not have a main character. Or better yet, for this part, all 5 could be the main characters. It's not like this concept hasn't been done before. Teen Titans is well received, and it follows the team and their antics. But hey, it's not like Josuke is doing himself any better. In fact,
Giorno is a joke. He's the worst Jojo by far. Even people who like Part 5 agree with me. If you ask me, Giorno and Bruno should be merged into one character. Bruno is the more compelling character with a more interesting stand and more stake in the actual story. Giorno is just a guy. Even the fact that he's Dio's son goes completely unused in the story. He could just as well be some random dude and nothing would change.
I can't even name a single character trait for Giorno.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
so let's see what Josuke offers to the table. I find it funny that Giorno gets all the shit for either not being a compelling character or not being a good main character. But while Part 5 has its problem, Giorno isn't one of them, kinda. I can absolutely understand if people don't like Giorno, but the reasonings given are retarded because they're easily more suited for Josuke than Giorno. I guess being a Mary Sue is hard these days, huh?
If you ask me, Giorno and Bruno should be merged into one character.
Josuke, Okuyasu, and Koichi might as well be the same character. 2 share brain cells, and the other at least had a character going until he dipped to clap some yandere cheeks.
He could just as well be some random dude and nothing would change.
Josuke might as well be an NPC with how little he's actually a part of this story.
I can't even name a single character trait for Giorno.
Hey, remember any character traits for Josuke? No? Me neither. Almost like he flips a switch every other episode to the next character trait the plot demands from him. Okay, but if I was to be serious for a moment, I don't actually hate Josuke as a character. I hate the Higashkitas for existing, but that's a different story. I just find it comical that Giorno Giovanni, the man whose whole goal in Golden Wind was to become the top mafioso to change Italy for the better and even overthrows the leader of the mafioso, is considered a worse protagonist to this NPC of a main character who rarely involves himself with the investigation and isn't even the one who finally finishes the serial killer. Again, hot take, but Josuke is worse as a protagonist than Giorno is. Unlike Giorno, who's actually involved in the story because it revolves around him, Josuke is thrown several times to the sidelines for the sake of the other characters, not to give them interesting characterizations, but to waste your fucking time. Doesn't help that while Giorno's motivations only became stronger once he learned the true nature of the boss, Josuke dropped his motivations the second he got it. His motivation wasn't even a bad one. He lost his own grandfather to Angelo because he let his guard down. He lost a family member because of his own negligence, which thus should mean that this would motivate him to take after his grandfather and to, at the very least, protect Morio. Instead, Josuke drops his motivation not even midway into the season. I understand if the motivation is weak, but it's not like you can do nothing with the concept. It's less the motivation itself and more the fact that it's really the only thing that gives Josuke some form of characterization, and it's pretty much forgotten about. But hey, why am I surprised? Rohan had the most personal reason to seek out the killer, only to drop it as well. But this is arguably worse because, again, this was Josuke's only characterization, making Josuke pointless in the long run, which is not a good thing when you're supposed to be the main fucking character. In fact, let me compare Josuke to another high school student with similar motivations. Ichigo Kurosaki.
Would you please explain why I'm in this segment of the show?
Ichigo, the day he was born, was able to see spirits. Unfortunately, in the world of Bleach, while he can see the souls of people who perished, he can also see the hollows. If you're not in the know, hollows in the Bleach universe are spirits corrupted by their negative emotions and became malevolent spirits seeking nothing more than to bring chaos. Think the curses from Jujutsu Kaisen. When Ichigo was 9, he encountered one of these hollows, the Grand Fissure, a hollow that tricked him into thinking a little girl was about to fall into a river. Ichigo ran to save her, but of course it was a trap. But before the Grand Fissure can get to him, Masaki, Ichigo's mother, sacrificed herself just to protect the young Ichigo. But ever since that day, Ichigo blamed himself for his mother's death, even saying that he's the reason for why she's dead. But when he encountered the Grand Fissure once more, he learned the true nature of these hollows, and having discovered he's a Shinigami, he has the power to fend off the hollows and protect the ones he cares about, and the ones who, like him, couldn't defend themselves. Knowing that his mother gave up her life just to save him, Ichigo seeks to do the same, because to him, he now has a reason to live and to be happy again. Already in that summarization of Ichigo's arc in the very beginning of Bleach, it gives Ichigo a pretty good reason to why he's the way that he is, and explains his actions throughout the series, which leads into the major arcs like the Soul Society arc, the Arrancar arc, the Huecomundo arc, Fake Karakuri Town, Fullbringer arc, and finally the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Ichigo's arc of moving on from the events that traumatized him led to the major events in Bleach, and while he remained relatively static throughout the series, his motivations never changed nor dropped. If anything, his motivations only grew stronger as the threats become greater. This is unfortunately what Josuke lacks. As I mentioned before, his motivations was completely dropped. add on to the fact that Josuke becomes more and more of a background character to the ever-growing roster of characters, ultimately superfluous to the story and other baffling decisions they made, Josuke's characterizations turns from somewhat interesting to ultimately boring and superfluous to the overall main plot. You can like Josuke all you want, I won't stop you, but the truth is, Josuke Higashkita is the worst main character in Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. You may have noticed I haven't referred to the main antagonist by name yet. That's because for this segment, I'm going to talk about what I did like about Diamond Is Unbreakable, him included. Yes, there are things I liked about this season that I'll get into right now. Starting off the intros. While I'm not a fan of Diamond Is Unbreakable's 3 intros, one thing I did like was the visualization. Having transitioned from 3D to 2D, the more vibrant colors, and the tricks they wouldn't have pulled off if they stuck with 3D, visually, these intros are impressive. Plus, the character models at least make the high school students look like high school students, unlike part 3. Not that it's a good or bad thing, it's just a neat style. What I also like are the stands. The stand in Diamond Is Unbreakable is expectedly a bit more diverse than in part 3. Which again, should be expected. Considering Stardust Crusaders is the same season that introduced the stands, it only makes sense for Diamond Is Unbreakable to expand on that concept. One type of stand I wish should be used more often, army stands. There's only 2 in this entire season, and both their users died too early. Considering what they were capable of, I would have loved to see more army stands utilized. Also, you can't tell me that this does not go hard. Especially since the humanoid stand don't just look like buff men in costume. I mean, look at Crazy Diamond's design. Unironically hard as fuck. Not to mention Reverb Act 3. Having stands that talk should exist. And here's living proof. But those are just small stuff. Let's dive into the meat of the segment. The man of the hour, the main antagonist of Diamond Is Unbreakable, Yoshikage Kira. I could introduce him, but I think he does a good job at introducing himself. Right, Kira?
You can call me Yoshikage Kira. I'm currently 33 years old. Not that you'd care, but I reside in Northeast Morio's Villa District. Also, I've yet to marry. In order to make a living, I work for Kamei department stores. After a long day's work, I return home no later than 8 p.m. I don't like smoking, but do enjoy the occasional drink. I'm always in bed by 11 p.m., and I make it a point to get no less than 8 hours of sleep each night. Before bed, I drink a warm glass of milk. It's always coupled with 20 minutes of stretching to decompress from a long work day. Sweet dreams are the usual result of this. I then awake as refreshed and recharged as a newborn child, ready to take on the day's challenges. And after my last checkup, I was given a clean bill of health.
Now, I've seen people singing his praises and even putting him above Dio as their favorite JoJo's villain. While I don't agree, I'd be lying if I said he didn't come close. I mean, for starters, look at him! The skull imagery, the purple suit, and of course his alternate looks. If it wasn't for the fact that he's a JoJo's character, I bet you'd walk past him without knowing it. And that's the whole idea. Yoshikage Kira isn't some over-the-top bad guy, he's a serial killer. He's cunning. He plans out everything he does to make sure he doesn't get caught. Cause here's the thing, Dio Brando's appeal is how over the top he is when it comes to being a villain. I don't know what Takehito has to say about playing Dio, but I can tell he's having the time of his life behind voicing this guy. But Yoshikage Kira has a much different appeal, and that's how uncomfortably real he is. No, I'm not saying there are people going around blowing up women for a severed hand, but think of the implication of Yoshikage's character. This man hides in plain sight, where hundreds walk past him every single second of every single minute of every single hour of every single day, and no one suspects him whatsoever. Isn't that how serial killers are in real life? Cause think about it, The most well-known killers are the ones who got caught, or the ones who weren't particularly sneaky about their methods. These killers are everywhere, and we pass by them on a daily basis. They're not political figures, they're not like well-known historians, they're not celebrities or influencers. Keeping a low profile is the name of the game, which is why many serial killers, hell, scums of the earth, are good at blending into the crowd. After all, no criminal is a good criminal if they get caught. This disturbing fact is ingrained into Yoshikage Kira. With his deceptive formal appearance, his devious personality, his careful planning, and his twisted pleasures and desires, this man is beautifully executed as a villain and more so as a serial killer, especially his stand, Killer Queen. I mean, what else can I say about this guy? I honestly wasn't expecting to like him, but he ended up being the saving grace of this season. Ironic how fate can turn out, am I right? But speaking of this season, number 3, the plot and pacing.
Your reasoning is hardly logical.
Okay, so remember when I summarized Diamond Is Unbreakable's plot and saying it's only if it remembers it has a plot? Let's get it out of the way. Diamond Is Unbreakable's plot feels like it was merely a concept and never given time to develop, so Araki needed to throw ideas left and right to hope any of them sticks. Half the time we're not even focused on catching Yoshikage, rather Koichi having a hell of a first date, or Josuke and Okuyasu at a restaurant with food that does weird shit to your body. If you're wondering how a first date and restaurant fits into a plot about chasing down a killer, it doesn't. It's just there to waste your time, especially since these characters aren't even involved in the hunt for Kira. So what was the point of having them to begin with? This season of Jojos is riddled with these moments that just makes you ask, what was the point?
What were they thinking?
This is Kamen Rider Decade levels of pacing. Losing track of your own fucking plot is not good writing. Like, let me make sure I really emphasize this. After meeting Josuke, after introducing the stand arrow, after Koichi gets his stand, the next thing we get is Koichi going on a date with Araki's take on a yandere, Yukiko Yamagishi. Who? Oh, don't worry if you don't remember her, because she doesn't even join the investigation.
Precisely my what?
Oh, but it's not just her either. Antonio is also introduced for no reason than to waste your time. First of all, how's his stand gonna be useful? And second, why the episode? Because again, Antonio doesn't contribute to the investigation. Really, the only ones who even join the investigation are Rohan and Fungami. The former I ripped into for being as dense as a load of bricks, and the other went out like a badass actually.
簡単だからこそいいんだぜ俺の負けだマジでビビったよシュレッダーの中に手を突っ込められたからな俺は喜んで神になるぜ
Unfortunately, because of how disjointed this plot feels, the pacing feels less like wanting to arrive at your destination, and more rather get distracted by arbitrary events that serve zero purpose for the plot. Oh, but it's not just pointless events, no. I briefly touched upon it, but the side characters in Diamond Is Unbreakable just come in, do something unrelated to the plot, then dip, and come back if they're lucky enough. While I'm not asking for every character to contribute, we do have missed opportunities amongst the crowd. In fact, I can name 2 who could have been good characters if they didn't get the axe. Exhibit A, Keicho Nijimura. If you don't remember him, he's Okuyasu's older brother and the same guy practically responsible for every stand users in Morio to begin with, wanting to kill his father once and for all for the way he treated him and Okuyasu. This could have led to an interesting moment where he can join the Diamond Is Unbreakable cast and finally be happy again. Hell, he could have been the one to find Yoshikage Kira. But no, he has to die way too early, and Shigechi has to take his place. I fucking hate this gremlin, to be honest. So glad Kira killed this fuck. Keicho already had a good character going on. I genuinely think him befriending Josuke in the gang can help with that character. Even if he's hesitant to do so or he's still sour about it, it can still lead into an interesting dynamic between them. Too bad this season hates characters being interesting. And the Senkin character I think was wasted? Well, Exhibit B, Yukiko Yamagishi. As I stated before, despite this season actually giving her a character arc, she's AFK for the rest of the season. Huh? But the thing is, she was wasted the second she got on screen. Because really, she was meant to be somewhat of a development for Koichi. The thing is, he already got the development, so there was nothing new to explore here.
Oh, you've gotta be kidding me!
Not to mention the fact that I think there was a better time for his development. Just have this development in the same episode he encounters Yoshikage. Not only would it not be any different, but it will also be worth your while to see this midget stand up to a serial killer. But yeah, I do wish Yamagishi joined the crew instead of hiding in the background. That would have been nice. Too bad again, this season hates interesting ideas. But speaking of Yoshikage Kira, he's introduced in the middle of the story with little to no build-up, except the ghost girl who was killed in a way I genuinely thought was someone else. Like, did I miss something? Regardless, this was a poor introduction to an amazingly written antagonist. As if this part can't do anything right. In complete contrast, Golden Wind is better as a story than Diamond Is Unbreakable. The story revolves around Giorno becoming a mafioso to change Italy for the better, and after establishing the plot, this entire season becomes what's essentially their version of the Stardust Crusaders formula with their own unique spin. Always staying on track no matter what. Diamond Is Unbreakable doesn't have that same mindset, and it really hinders the enjoyment for me if this season can't even focus on its own damn plot. You know what else Golden Wind didn't do? Assassinate its characters? Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. This is the entire reason I hate the Higashkitas with every fiber of my being. Jojo being Dio's son went unused, yes, but at the very least, it didn't insult Dio's character. Josuke being the son of Joseph is beyond insulting to Joseph's character. You mean to tell me that Joseph would cheat on Suzy Q with a young Japanese woman when he was in his 60s?
Bullshit!
I'm not making this up, by the way.
Then I find out he had an affair at the ripe old age of 62.
What? What the fuck?
So on top of Joseph being useless in Diamond Is Unbreakable, he's also assassinated? Get out! Okay, sure, Joseph might be the type to spy on a woman bathing. Okay, but cheating on his one and only? At what age again?
The ripe old age of 62.
Am I dead yet? Besides, like Giorno, Josuke being Joseph's dad doesn't lead anywhere. So why do my boy dirty like this? Even if I wasn't a fan of Joseph, even if I don't have him as my favorite JoJo's protagonist, I hate character assassination in general because there's no point to it, and it's just shitty writing. Which is why I will kill every Higashkita that even thinks of breathing. You already lost your grandfather, Josuke. I'm sure you wouldn't mind losing your mother, right? I'll make you watch as I beat her to death and paralyze her. Make sure all of it is recorded in 4K. 4K! And put it on replay for all of Morio to see. I will avenge Joseph in any way I can. Long live Joseph Joestar! Oh yeah, Jotaro's problem. I appreciate you taking the role of main character for Josuke, but let the kid have his moment in the sun, okay? There's more nonsense from this part, but I think you get the picture. The plot and pacing was a pain to get through for me, and that's saying a lot considering what I watch and call as my favorite. Okay, I know I've been negative for most of the video, but come here. Come here. Let's sit down. I'll tell you something. I don't hate Diamond Is Unbreakable.
There's a big surprise!
Despite how I come off this entire video, I hold no hatred to Diamond Is Unbreakable. It's more of a love-hate relationship. I skipped this season of Jojos because I wasn't interested, but saying that it wasn't exactly a fair shake, I wanted to give it a chance. I wanted to be wrong about my assumptions on this season. Unfortunately, what I watched was a poorly written 31-episode season, with pacing that would make Kamen Rider Decade blush, characters popping in randomly or doing absolutely nothing like the characters from Kamen Rider Tyson, Joseph Joestar getting assassinated more brutally than Takeshi Hongo, and the entire cast being so useless, Sakura can at least be called useful because she actually tried and accomplished more than these laughing, joking numbnuts. But you know what? I'm merciful, so I'll do everything in my power to actually fix this season the best way I can.
He will be a fascinating case for study.
I will leave no fiber or fiber optic unexamined.
Have Jotaro head to Morio because of a strange pattern of events where young women disappear every year. Despite how stupid it sounds, especially since it's in a small town disconnected from any other city, Jotaro should look into it if there's a small sliver of chance that it's the work of a stand user. Joseph provides Jotaro with the pictures he needs and sees Yoshikage Kira, yet doesn't know anything about him. After introducing the main players, Angelo can show up to show Jotaro how fucked up people in Morio can be. Plus, Kichi Nijimura's quest for retributions means he's populated Morio with stand users, making this investigation a bit more difficult than Jotaro expected, and set up a cat and mouse chase where trial and error are inevitable. From there, you can introduce the other characters, whether to be red herrings or join the investigation efforts to find who's responsible for the random string of disappearing women cases. Sure, this is probably similar to other animes like Death Note, but at the very least, Jojos can do its own spin on the formula to hopefully make an entertaining journey. As for Josuke, I'm about to light up the fandom by saying this, but I think Josuke's father should be Jotaro's dad.
What?
Now, hear me out. Josuke being Joseph's son and Jotaro's uncle aren't anything they've really touched upon in this season. So really, having Jotaro's unknown father being Josuke's father would be better in the fact that you're not shitting on your characters. After all, you can't screw up a characterization that doesn't exist.
But Darkness, wouldn't that mean he wouldn't be a Jojo? Which would then mean he won't have his stand, and would also mean him being the main character would make even less sense.
Josuke may not have Joestar blood, but he's definitely a Joestar in spirit. As for how he gets his stand, Keicho, enough said. I don't think I need to say anything else. Anything I want to say, like I'm not demeaning anyone. You can like whatever you like, or whatever. I think I made it clear throughout the video. Feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to give me your own opinion on Diamond Is Unbreakable in the comments. I leave them enabled for a reason, so that we can have a conversation like this. But other than that, yeah, I'm not a fan of Diamond Is Unbreakable. But it's not the end of the world. Thank you all for watching. Take care, everyone.